story The Blue Bead, which is written by Nora Burke, and it is there in class 10th ICSE syllabus. So let's look at the story. From deep water came the crocodile, out of black water curved with whirlpools, and into the frill of gold shallows by the stepping stones. So here initially we are given an introduction of a crocodile, a huge crocodile that came from the deep water. The water was looking black and it was having whirlpools all over. Whirlpools क्या होता है? भंवर, in which the people they get drowned. And into the frill of the gold shallows by the stepping stones. After coming out of that water, it moved towards the stepping stones, or the area where the stones were there. And there, due to the sunlight, it looked like golden shallows. The land was looking like golden in color. He was twice the length of a tall man, and inside him, among the stones which he had swallowed to aid digestion, rolled a silver bracelet. Now, when he is being compared to a human being, so it is said that he is twice the length of a tall man. That means even if a tall man stands beside him, then he will be twice the length of that tall man. And inside him, since the crocodile, they always swallow some stones in order to help in the digestion of their food. So among the stones where he was laying, there was a silver bracelet which was shining beside him. Timber was being floated down this great Indian river from forests further up, and there were sleepers lying stuck around the stones until someone came to dislodge them and send them on their way. So what happened was, above there was a hill where timbers were being cut. They were being cut and they were being thrown into the river, and on the river there were some sleepers which were lying, on which the timbers used to fall. Now they used to lay there till somebody could come and dislodge those sleepers and then carry them to the destined place. Or until floods lifted them and jostled them along. Or it could be like if nobody came to pick up those sleepers, then what happened was, due to floods, sometimes the position of the slippers used to jostle around. That means they used to float here and there in the river. The crocodile had no need to hide himself. He came to rest in the glassy shallows among logs and balanced there on tiptoe on the rippled sand, with only his raised eyes out of water and raised nostrils breathing the clean sunny air. Now here just said the crocodile did not need to save himself or hide himself from somebody. He had come in order to take some sun bath. So he had come on that glassy shallow flats, the shallow land, and there between the logs only he was lying. He was balanced on his tiptoe. On his toes he was balancing himself, and on the rippled sand, with only his raised eyes out of water, and half of his body, more than half of his body, was inside the water. The only thing that was out of the water was his nostrils and his mouth, or his eyes, you can say. His eyes were there, which were out of the water, and his nostrils, through which he could breathe. Around him, broad sparkling water travelled between cliffs and grass and forested hills. Now here around him there was so much of water which was sparkling in the bright sunlight, and this water travelled between the two cliffs, the two hilly type of regions. A jungle track came out of the scrub each side and down to the sun-whitened stepping stones, on which a little flycatcher was flirting and trilling along. The mugger crocodile, blackish brown above and yellow-white under, lay motionless, able to wait forever till food came. Now, beside this water, behind, a jungle track used to start. It was on both sides of that river that a jungle track was there, and here a little flycatcher, an insect, was flying over there in the environment, This mugger crocodile, mugger means a freshwater crocodile. You will get the word meanings in the workbook itself. So mugger means a freshwater crocodile. He was laying there and he was ready to lay there forever, waiting for his prey. He had so much of patience that he could wait there till a new prey would come and he would attack it. This antediluvian saurian, this prehistoric juggernaut, ferocious and formidable, a vast force in the water, propelled by unimaginable and irresistible power of the huge tail, lay lapped by ripples athrob in his throat. Now here they are giving some words like antediluvian saurian, then prehistoric juggernaut. So here we can see that in the word meanings they have given the meaning of every word. Now if we see into the word meanings, here they have given antediluvian means very old fashioned, and saurian means a ferocious animal. Prehistoric juggernaut, juggernaut means something which is large and powerful and which cannot be overcome, right? So they are describing how huge that crocodile was. It was very old fashioned crocodile, but it was very powerful, very strong, and this was lying on that water, and he had a huge irresistible power in his tail. The tail was so heavy that it contained so much of power, and it lay lapped by the ripples. That means all around water was flowing and making ripples around his tail and around his body also. A throb in his throat, and here you can say like in fish they breathe by the gills, so here also it was being felt as if he was breathing over here on his throat. His mouth running almost the whole length of his body, and his mouth was so big that started from here and almost entire length of the body was being covered with that mouth. Was closed and fixed in that evil bony smile. The mouth was closed, but it seemed as if he was smiling in a devilish manner, in an evil manner, as if any prey would come, how he would attack it. He had a plan beforehand in his head. Where the yellow underside came up to it, it was tinged with green. Acha, here they had told about the upper part of the body of that crocodile. It was blackish brown, and beneath it was yellowish white. Now this yellowish under part of that crocodile had a tinge of green due to the rays of the sun and due to the plants which were below the water. From the day perhaps 100 years ago, when the sun had hatched him in a sandpan, and he had broken his shell and got his head out and looked around, ready to snap at anything before he was even fully hatched. From that day when he had at once made for water, ready to fend for himself immediately. He had lived by his brainless craft and ferocity. Now here it is said that since the age of the crocodile cannot be predicted, so they are saying that it may be like about 100 years ago when this crocodile was in its egg and the rays of the sun had caused the egg to hatch, and since the time when he was going to come out of his egg, he immediately had the instinct of how to look around and snap at anything in order to quench his thirst as well as the hunger. He had not fully come out of the egg. Still at that time, from that time onwards, he had that you can say brainless craft, means where you are not going to teach anybody anything, but they have their own instinct how to do the task. But he was ferocious at that time also, escaping the birds of prey and the great carnivorous fishes that eat baby crocodiles. He also had that instinct how to save himself from those carnivorous fishes or from the big whales or fishes that used to feed on the baby crocodiles, he at once knew how to save himself from all those dangers. He had prospered catching all the food he needed, and he immediately had the idea how to catch his food and how to feed on it, and storing it till putrid in holes in the bank. And putrid means, you can say, like having a bad smell when something is decayed. So he used to store some food in the holes till they became decayed, and you can say began to elicit some bad smell. Then only he used to eat that. Tepid water to live in and plenty of rotted food grew him to his great length. Tepid means a slight warm water, the warm water of the sea. He used to drink that water, and there was, as I told you, the decayed food he used to feed on, which made him so much huge and having a great strength. Now, nothing could pierce the inch thick armored hide, not even rifle bullets which would bounce off. Only the eyes and the soft underarms offered a place. He lived well in the river, sunning himself sometimes with other crocodiles, muggers, as well as long snouted fish eating gharials on the warm rocks and sandbanks where the sun dried the clay on them quite white, and where they could plop off into the water in a moment if allowed. So he had grown so thick and ferocious that even the armor that means the thick body became just like an armor. As the warriors, when they go for battle, they wear the armor in order to protect themselves. So similarly, his hide had become so much thick, just like an armor. It was inch thick, and nothing could pierce it, not even a single bullet of a rifle. Only two things were vulnerable in his body, and that were his eyes and his underarms, which were soft and delicate. So sometimes he used to come on the sandbank with other crocodiles or with gharials in order to take a sun bath on the warm rocks and sandbanks. Now here the sun had used to dry that clay, the sand beside that river used to dry up due to the sun and became clay like thick, quite white, where they could plop off into the water in a moment of allowance. So they used to rest on those sandbanks. Whenever they used to sense that some danger is there, they immediately used to go inside the river. The big crocodile fed almost on fish, but also on deer and monkeys that came to drink, perhaps a duck or two. But sometimes here at the ford, he fed on a pie dog full of parasites or a skeleton cow, and sometimes he went down to the burning ghats and found the half-burned bodies of Indians cast into the stream. Now here they have told about the feeding habit of that crocodile. He used to feed on fish, but he also used to feed on deer as well as monkeys if they used to come on the river side in order to have some water. So he used to attack on them and eat them up. At the same time, he sometimes used to feed on the pie dogs. Pie dogs are those dogs which are street dogs only, but they have a lot of, you can say, small insects on their bodies, and they look very bad when you look at some dogs. So there are some, you can say, tiny insects which are present on the body. So he used to eat them also. It was said to be a half wild Asian dog, a pie dog, and nobody used to own such dogs. Sometimes the crocodile used to swim and go towards the ghats. The burning ghats means the Shamshan ghats, where the dead bodies used to be burned. And whenever some half-burned bodies were there, the owners of the Shamshan ghats used to throw those half-burned bodies into the river. So the crocodile used to eat those bodies also. Beside him in the shoals, as he lay waiting, glimmered a blue gem. Now, shoal means a group of the water animals. It can be fish, whale. So here a group of crocodiles used to rest on the sandbank, and here a blue bead or a blue gem used to sparkle beside him. It was not a gem though, it was a sand-worn glass that had been rolling out about in the river for a long time. By chance, it was perforated right through the neck of a bottle, perhaps a blue bead. It was actually not a gem. Any precious gem was not there. It was actually the neck of a broken bottle, which used to lie there for a long time. And due to the sand and the rays of the sun, it used to give a sparkle just like a blue gem. So that is why it was said to be a blue bead. And this neck of the bottle was perforated. It was having hole in between that you can put a thread around it and wear it as a necklace. In the shrill, noisy village above the ford, out of a mud house the same color as the ground, came a little girl, a thin, starving child, dressed in an earth-colored rag. She had formed the rag in two to make skirt and sari. Now, this is all the description of the crocodile till which we have studied. Now we are told about that near this there was a noisy village, and that was somewhere just above this cliff. Now here from a mud house came a little girl who was the same color as that of the earth. That means brownish, a dark brownish skin of that girl has been described. She was a thin girl, a child who was dressed in a sari. And that earth colored rag was there. Actually, she had taken one cloth of her and she had torn it into two pieces to form a skirt and a sari. Sibya was eating the last of a meal, chapati wrapped around a smear of green chili and rancid butter, and she divided this also to make it seem more, and bit it, showing straight white teeth. So here we are told that Sibya, this girl's name was Sibya. She was sitting in her house, in her mud house, and she was eating a single chapati which she had torn into several pieces to make it look as if she was having a large meal. She was eating with it a rancid butter. That means a butter which gives a rotten smell. Some green chili was also there, and she was trying to tear the pieces of the chapati in such a way as if it looked she was having a large meal. And as she was eating it, her white teeth were shining. With her ebony hair and great eyes and her skin of oil brown skin, brown skin, she was a happy, immature child woman, about 12 years old. Here we are told the age of Sibya, and that is she was 12 years old. And here we are told that how her hair looked. They were brownish, like ebony means brownish, having a tinge of mud also. And her skin was oily. It was dark brown color and it was oily also. She was a girl of 12 years age. She was an immature child woman, we have been told. Child woman means a child who has not experienced the life of a common child but has become mature before age. Barefoot, of course. She didn't have even slippers to wear, and often woozy cold on a winter morning and gone to toil. On winter mornings, she didn't even have warm clothes, so she used to shiver. And even it looked as if she was born only to toil. Toil means to do hard work. In all her life, she had never owned anything but a rag. So throughout her life, she didn't have any new clothes except for rags. Rags are torn and old clothes. She had never owned even one anna, not a pice, not a pipe. Even to buy, say, a handful of blown glass beads from that stall in bazaar where they pile like stars, or one of the thin glass bangles that men kept and you could choose which color you would have. So all her life she had never owned any good clothes except for the stone and old clothes. She even didn't have even an anna to buy something. That anna can be a pie or a pies. Even she couldn't have a single pies to buy those glass beads which like in Hindi we say kancha. In order to play with that, she didn't even have a single penny with her. Because there were some stalls in the bazaar which used to sell such type of beads. She didn't have even a single penny to go to the bazaar and buy something for her. Now in the bazaar there was a shop where several star-like substances used to shine on a long stick, or one of the thin glass bangles used to shine, which even children fancy for it. They like to buy such things. But she didn't have even a single penny to buy such things. She knew what finery was though. She had been with her parents and brothers all through the jungle to the little town at Railhead where there was this bazaar. She knew everything. What is the beauty of the toys, what is the beauty of the bangles and all, but she had adjusted to the situation. And she had always been with her parents and her brothers and all through the jungle to the little town at the railhead where there was this bazaar. So with her parents and brothers she used to go to the bazaar, passing through the railheads and passing through the jungle. She had walked through all the milling people and the dogs and monkeys full of fleas. She had seen everything. She used to see that how the people who used to work in the mills, she used to pass by them. She had seen some monkeys and pigs and dogs having fleas on their skin. The idling, gossiping, bargaining humanity, spitting Beetlejuice, heard the bell of a sacred bull clonking as he lumped along the dust and hubbub. Now, there the people in the bazaar, they used to sit idly and used to gossip with each other without any work. And even sometimes they used to eat beetle. Beetle means pan. So they used to spit the juice of that pan. जिसको in Hindi we say पान की पीक फेंक देते थे. And she used to hear the bell of the clonking bull, where the people used to say कि आप जो इससे सवाल पूछोगे ये जवाब देगा. So it was all full of dust and so much of noise. Hubbub means so much of noise and the passing and going of the people in the bazaar. She had paused amazed before the sweetmeat stall. The only stall that she liked was, as every child likes, the sweetmeat stall. That means a stall which used to sell confectionaries like toffees and all. To gaze at the brilliant honey confections abuzz with dust and flies. But all those confections or the toffees that were kept over there, they were all smeared with dust and the flies used to sit over them. They smelled wonderful above the smells of drains and humanity and cheap cigarettes. Although the entire bazaar was filled with the bad smell of cigarettes or drains, but still, when she used to stand at that stall, no other smell could bother her other than the smell of those sweet toffees. At home, she sometimes tasted wild honey or crunched the syrup out of a stalk of sugar cane. But these sweets were green and magenta. Whenever she used to go home, she used to herself create toffees for herself. She used to first of all tasted honey, or she used to crunch it to get the syrup of it from the sugar cane. But the sweets that she used to see in that stall were green and magenta, which attracted her the most. So we have seen first part of this story where we have covered 3 pages. We'll come up with the next video in the next session. Thank you.